Hey everyone. So let's talk about MultiVersus here. And the obvious question I think anybody has is what exactly did go wrong? I mean, a lot of people will point to, the game being a financial disappointment and a financial loss for WB games and player first games and such. Some would say that at the end of the day, it seems that, at least the end of player first, but mostly WB or whoever you want to blame, some would say that maybe at the end of the day, it just turned out to be one big scam. And I don't know if we can really say that it was a scam. Because if it was, then this game wouldn't be, around as long as it was. You know, a lot of the licenses that were in this game, even third party, that were not associated with Warner Brothers, to an extent, but were in the game, they wouldn't be there. They wouldn't be there whatsoever. And all platforms would have took it down. All platforms would have had it taken down. There would have been some kind of, resolution to where the game would not be. But yet, but yet people are still wondering if it was a scam. Because if you're going to have people, invest, like there are people like Angry Joe Vargas of the Angry Joe Show that invested $100 in the Founders Pack, along with many others. And I'm sure some of them, that also did this were like Black Nerd Comedy, Andre Meadows, AVGN probably did it, James Rolfe, and so on. As well as Pat the NES Punk, Pat Contra, if you will. So a lot of them probably invested $100 into the Founders Pack to help get this game up and going and make it into what, player first games and WB games initially, or at least wanted you initially to think it was going to be. And, honestly, like I said, you can't really blame people for feeling like maybe they were scammed out of the money because, if you're going to invest $100 or if not more into a Founders Pack, if not, some kind of more elite pack, down, with the, I guess you could say I'm trying to find the right words to say, with the, promise that this game is going to be basically the WB, the Warner Brothers equivalent of what Super Smash Brothers is, people expect a return in their investment. They don't expect all of a sudden for player first games and WB games to come out and say, yeah, unfortunately we're going to have to shut this down and we're not going to be able to give you your full investment, in return. We're not going to be able to give you that full investment in return. Because there are folks like Angry Joe. He was talking about this in his news feed, his weekly Monday, double feature news feed that he does along with Alex and other Joe. He was talking about like, hey, if that's the case, why not refund me? Why not refund me, what I'm owed? If you're going to be shutting this game down. And he has a right to ask that question or want that to happen because it's like, I just spent $100+. There are others that probably did more so than that, that are wondering, okay, why won't you give us, our, as I turn my fridge on here, hold on for a sec. Hold on a sec, guys. I'm trying to turn on my mini fridge. There we go. But if you hear anything in the background, that's my mini fridge. That's what you've been hearing in the background too over a lot of these videos and audio videos. That's been my mini fridge. But anyway, Joe has a right to ask that question because he's somebody that basically put down $100 to help this in the Found Pack, if not more. Others probably did more to get this game up and running, and now he's not getting a return as promised in his investment. So you can't blame him for wondering or for asking and wanting a refund to occur. But what happens instead? What happens instead of potentially getting a refund? They basically come out and they say, all right, look, we're shutting down, online and all that. You can't download the game anymore if you wanted to off any stores. So in turn, what we're doing for those that have, or those that are going to be downloading it since it's in its final phase, what we're going to do instead is on May 30th, if not May 31st, we're going to basically take this, live service, free-to-play fighter game, Smash Brothers inspired fighter game, and we're going to basically turn it into what it should have been in the first place. And a lot of people feel that way. Even I feel that way. Like, this is what you should have done in the first place, because what they're going to do come May 30th, around that time frame, is it's going to become a regular fighting game. You're going to have all the characters that you would have to unlock through daily quests and all that, battle passes, rifts, and everything. You're going to have them all available to play. You can have them all available. You can have them all available, the variants and all that. You can have everything. And to me, and I know I'm not alone in this, to me, this is what, MultiVersus should have been in the first place. This is what it should have been in the first place. Look, when Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl came out, yeah, at first it wasn't good, but they updated it, they fixed things and everything to make it more playable. And when the sequel came out, yeah, it probably wasn't as successful, but it was more, I guess you could say, sought after than MultiVersus. And MultiVersus was supposed to be one of those games that, let's say like AEW Fight Forever, was supposed to just keep growing and growing and growing and growing and growing and growing and growing like Smash Brothers did. Smash Brothers, every now and then, would bring out a new fighter or two and a new stage and everything, to expand the game, to keep the game going into a certain time frame. MultiVersus, was one of those games promised by Player First Games and WB Games to be one that was just going to be an endless game. Like, you didn't have to worry about buying another game, like MultiVersus, or you don't have to worry about a sequel happening because, hey, we're just going to keep adding characters and stages and all that over and over and over. Which is a good idea to go with, because WB has an endless supply of characters, animated and live action, licensed and whatever, that they could put in there. But yet now they're not going to do that. Because, again, apparently it was a financial disappointment and a financial loss for WB and Player First in the long run. And again, some people, like I said, would look at several things that they did wrong as to basically, this game kind of going down the path that it did, to where it's going to now just go offline. And the silver lining, I guess you could look at it this way, is it's going to just become a regular fighting game, which, like I said, it should have been in the first place. It should have just been a regular fighting game. It shouldn't have been like, oh, well, it's a free-to-play online service and everything. No, it should have been a game. It should have been a fighting game that you could have charged money for, like, let's say $39, $40 if you will, or $60, whatever the case may be, maybe even $30. It should have been that kind of a game that you charge, so that way, when you add in new characters and new elements, guess what? You make your money back. You make your money back. Because you want to know why games like Street Fighter 6, Street Fighter 5, you want to know why Mortal Kombat, 11 and Mortal Kombat 10 and, Injustice and Injustice 2 and, other fighting games, even wrestling games like WWE 2K24 and soon to be 2K25 and possibly all been success or will be successes? Why do you think AEW Fight Forever, despite its mediocrity now, is still kind of very relevant and playable by a lot of fans' perspective? It's because all the developers and the publishers took the initiative to sell them as actual games, to sell them for money. And in the process, basically add in the option to have seasonal passes, so that way you as the player, if you decide to purchase that seasonal pass, individually or as part of, let's say, a deluxe, purchase of the game, you on every season would be able to get a new game, a new character, part of DLC, and a new stage and all that through various updates, and you wouldn't have to worry about going through these quests and all that to unlock gems and everything, or wait for certain dates and all that. You would have the character right then and there, and you would be able, by doing so, give more replayability to the game for the players, which would, in the end, equal your game being a success. And as a company, allow you, to financially, gain something, not lose it. But they didn't do that. They wanted to try to do, basically what they wanted to do is they wanted to try to up, Nintendo. They wanted to try to one-up Nintendo, one-up, Nicktoons, if you will, Nickelodeon, and say, hey, we're going to be free to play. Nobody really has to spend money on us, except for maybe a few microtransactions here and plucking down $100-something or more for a founder pack or elite pack or whatever, and so on. They tried to one-up, they tried to make themselves look better, and in the end, it bit them in the ass. And that's not good. It bit them in the ass when it was all said and done. Because they didn't go down the route that, Nintendo did, that Nickelodeon did, that Capcom does, that 2K does, and all of them that have, a connection to a fighting game or a grappling, wrestling game, boxing game, whatever. They go down these paths, and most of the time they will have, success. Maybe not, tremendous uber success, if you will. But they could have mediocre, if not kind of low success, but they have success. They have success, and in the long run, if they offer things like seasonal passes and everything, guess what? They make their money back when people want to buy those seasonal passes individually, or they make their money back when people decide to buy the deluxe version of the game that comes with the seasonal pass. But did they do that? No. They didn't do that. All this hype and advertisement, as good as it was, wasn't enough to get them where they wanted to be with this game. And because of that, there's a lot of people like a Joe Vargas, and I guarantee you, like an Andre Meadows, like a James Rolfe, or anybody that plucked down $100 or more on the founder pack, if not, more elite packs above that are upset at the fact that they're not going to get their money's worth. They're not going to get their money's worth, and they feel that they should have a refund, some kind of compensation, or compensation, if you will, in return. But they're not getting it. Instead, as a compensation, what are they going to get? They're going to get the entire game in a few months, basically turned into what it should have been in the first place. You're going to get to be able to locally play friends online, play friends in fighting, in matchups locally. Oh, you're going to be able to fight against the AI. Gee, guess what's going to happen initially? You know what's going to happen initially? When you do that come May 30th, when that happens, May 30th, May 31st, Memorial Day weekend, you know what's going to happen? People are going to enjoy the game even more because it's going to be as it should have been in the first place. And guess what's going to happen? WB's going to see this. Player First is going to see this. And they're going to realize, oh, that's what we should have done in the first place. That's how we should have presented it. Duh. Duh. And that's why I've got a feeling if they do a follow-up, they do a sequel in the future, which you can't say they won't because I think they will. I think what's going to happen is they're going to learn from their mistakes here, and they're going to be like, you know what? If we're going to do a sequel, to this game, a MultiVersus 2, an MVS 2, guess what we got to do? We got to sell it as an actual game. No more free to play. Sell it as an actual game. Include all the fighters, all the characters that you have here in the first one. Include them right off the bat as the initial roster, and then from there take what you've learned from your mistakes with this one and run with it. This time around, do seasonal passes to where, hey, you have the seasonal pass. If you buy the seasonal pass individually or as part of a deluxe set, guess what? You're going to get all these other characters coming in, as DLC through various updates. That's what's going to happen. I guarantee you, once this goes and becomes what it should have been on May 30th, May 31st, people are going to be like, oh, that's what we should have been, not people, but Player First and WB are going to be like, oh, that's what we should have done. And they're going to take that, they're going to learn from it, they're going to do a sequel, or at least something that's identical to this under a different title, and it's going to be done the way it should have been done initially. And that's what I see happening. That's what I see happening. And I'm not going to, and don't be surprised if you get an announcement of that. Don't be surprised if, by the end of this year, the middle of this year, into next year, you'll get an announcement. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised. Because I think it's going to happen. I think it will. But at the end of the day, this is, if your player first games and your WB games, mostly player first games, this should be the ultimate lesson, and to yourself, and it should be the ultimate message sent to any other developer and publishers out there, that if you're going to try to be your own take on Smash Brothers, guess what? Don't try to be better than them. This is a case of, you don't try to be better than them. Don't try to one up them. Try to basically be at their level by being like them, or at least taking cues from them and applying it to what you want to do. If not, maybe put your own twist and take on it, but don't try to one up them by doing something that eventually financially is going to come back to bite you. Because this is one of those cases to where they should have at least, ladies and gentlemen, said, hey, let's put this out there as a regular fighting game, sell it for a certain price, do a deluxe pack and all that. And then over time, supply different characters through seasonal passes that people will obtain, either as individual DLC or as part of a seasonal pack they bought individually, or as part of a deluxe pack. Let's do it that way. And hey, we might have a financial success on our hands. But they didn't do that. And now they're paying the price. Because this idea for MultiVersus was a great idea. All the Looney Tune characters, all the characters under the WB license, Rick and Morty, Lord of the Rings, and so on. What else? Lord of the Rings, House of Dragon, Game of Thrones, you name it. It's like everything, Hanna-Barbera, everything was there. Everything was there for them to make this game a success, and they didn't. They didn't make it a success, and they hurt themselves in the long run. They did. They hurt themselves in the long run, and now they basically gotta go back to the drawing board if they choose to, and decide, okay, if we're gonna do a sequel, to this game, or if we're gonna do a game that's identical to this but under a different title, let's not go the free-to-play route. Let's just sell it digitally and physically as an actual game, and give people the option to either buy a deluxe version that includes a seasonal pass, as well as maybe some bonus characters, or we have that seasonal pass, for sale, to purchase individually and go from there. Because again, you want to know what makes fighting games like Smash, like Street Fighter, like Mortal Kombat, like the Nicktoon All-Stars, and so forth. Why wrestling fighting games like, WWE and AEW are, where they're at right now, successfully, mediocrely successful. It's because the developer and publisher knows how to present the game as it should be to the genre and the audience it needs to be presented to. So hopefully player first games and WB games, if they're going to go revisit this, down the line, whether it's a sequel or it's a game under a different title inspired by this, or kind of like a facsimile to this, they need to learn from these mistakes. Look and study why these other fighting games that I've mentioned are a success, and go from there. And that's about it. But guys, let me know what your thoughts are. How do you feel about this? How do you feel about the WB games and Player First Games shutting down MultiVersus, at the end of May 30th, making it into what it initially should have been in the first place? What are your thoughts about this? And do you think they should have gone the regular route of just make it a purchasable fighting game that you sell physically and digitally, and then, include as part of a deluxe pack or individually a seasonal pass, to where every season or every quarter a new fighter or new group of fighters, and new stages and stuff, new updates come in, and you don't have to worry about purchasing anything else after that? Do you think they should have gone that route? I think they should have. But what are your thoughts? Comment down below, like the video, let me know. Let me know if you think they're also going to do a follow-up, like a sequel or something under a different title that's similar to this, but basically, basically taking taking the lessons they've learned from the mistakes they made and applying it. Let me know. But guys, that's all I'm going to say until for now. Comment down below, like the video, ring the bell for notifications, subscribe to the channel. Also, comment in the live chat during the premiere if you like to. Also, click on the links in the description to find my content elsewhere. You can find me at all your favorite audio and video outlets, for podcasting, whether it's Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Overcast, you name it. If it's got a podcast, Pandora, if you will, if it's got a podcast or a podcast as a part of it, you'll probably find mine there as well. Also, check me out at VENMO at BWRoses. Also, check me out at rumble.com at BWRoses, odyssey.com at BWRoses. Also, check me out at the Cash App and Venmo if you want help there. Patreon as well. Also, check out the Teespring store merchandise, where you can find merchandise you can't get anywhere else. Links are in the description, guys. As well as you can find me on Twitter at Twitter/X at BWRoses and at Blue Sky at BWRoses. But guys, give me your thoughts on all of this. How do you feel? And until next, what are your thoughts? How do you feel about this overall? And, let me know if you think they should have gone down the route that I've mentioned. And until then, I am out.